Hey everybody, and welcome to another deep dive. Today we are going deep into the rainforest to meet like a really amazing creature, the Harpy Eagle. Have you heard of this one?
Oh yeah, definitely.
They live in those super dense, lush rainforests in like Central and South America. That's where
Mm.
this incredible raptor is like the king. I've got this awesome article here. It's going to unpack everything about them, like what they look like, how they hunt, the challenges they face.
What's so cool about the Harpy Eagle is they just like totally shatter our image of eagles, those soaring over wide open spaces. But this bird lives in like the rainforest canopy. Super complex.
It's like a real-life superhero with wings. The article says they can have like a 7-foot wingspan. I mean, that's taller than most people.
Yeah.
And get this, their talons, they're the size of a grizzly bear's claws.
Oh, wow.
Can you even imagine the strength?
5 inches long those talons are. They need every bit of that power because they hunt prey as large as sloths and monkeys. They just pluck them right from the treetops.
Weight sloths. They can snatch those slow-moving creatures right out of the trees.
Yeah.
This is already blowing my mind.
Yeah, it's a testament to their hunting skills. But before we get too far into that, the article talks about the Harpy Eagle's appearance. And they are just striking. They have this really stunning black, white, and gray plumage. And when they're alert, they have this head crest. It fans out almost like a crown.
Okay, so I can picture it. Perched high in the canopy, feathers totally camouflaged, a crown-like crest raised, scanning the rainforest below for prey. But I'm getting ahead of myself. We're talking about size. The article says females are larger than males, sometimes almost double their weight. Why is that?
That's a great question. It's called sexual dimorphism. It's pretty common with birds of prey. The female's larger size is probably related to laying eggs and also incubating them. It might also give her an advantage in defending the nest and her young.
Interesting. So it's not just about looking impressive, it's about specific roles within the species. Speaking of impressive, this bird needs a pretty impressive kingdom to rule, right?
Yeah, they do. They need a vast territory, dense, undisturbed forests with really tall trees that are perfect for nesting. A single breeding pair needs over 10,000 hectares. That's bigger than some cities.
Wow, 10,000 hectares just for one pair. What does that tell us about the health of the rainforest and how these eagles fit into like the bigger picture?
That's a really good point. I mean, the size of the territory tells us a lot. First, it highlights how much they need a healthy rainforest, with lots of prey. Second, it shows how vulnerable they are to habitat loss. As rainforests are cleared, for agriculture or mining or even urban development, it's just harder to find enough space to survive.
So their survival is like directly tied to the health of the rainforest
Yeah,
and being at the top of the food chain. They must play a pretty important role in keeping things balanced.
absolutely. They're what's called an apex predator, meaning they are at the very top. No natural enemies. Their diet is mostly tree-dwelling mammals, like those sloths and monkeys, but also snakes, lizards, and even other birds.
They're like the ultimate rainforest guardians, keeping all those populations in check. But can you imagine trying to hunt in a dense rainforest canopy? It's like a maze up there,
Right.
all those branches and leaves.
Yeah, it's a super challenging environment. You need a combination of strength, agility, and strategy to be a successful hunter. And they have it all. The article calls them ambush predators. They rely on stealth and surprise.
So they're not all about brute strength. They have brains too. I want to know more about how they actually hunt. But before we get to that, I'm curious about something else. If they need such huge territories, and they're so important for balance in the rainforest, how often do they reproduce? I'm guessing it can't be that often.
You're right. Harpy eagles reproduce very slowly. They lay just 1 or 2 eggs every 2 to 3 years. This
Yeah.
slow reproductive rate makes them especially vulnerable to any disruptions in their environment.
It's like they put all their eggs in one basket, so to speak.
Yeah.
They invest so much time and energy in raising a couple of chicks.
Exactly. Raising a Harpy Eagle chick is a long process. It requires so much from both parents. And that brings us to another fascinating aspect, their nesting behavior.
Okay, so they're powerful apex predators. They have a huge impact on the rainforest. But they only have 1 or 2 chicks every few years. What's their nest like? Do they build these elaborate structures?
They do. They build massive nests high in the treetops, usually in the forks of those super tall trees. They use sticks and leaves, even animal fur, to make this secure platform for their chicks. They're like fortresses in the sky.
Wow. It sounds like those nests are almost as impressive as the birds themselves. But with all those challenges, habitat loss hunting and that slow reproductive rate, how are they surviving?
It's a concern. They're currently classified as near threatened by the International Union for Conservation of Nature. That means there's a real risk of them becoming endangered soon.
Okay, good. I'm definitely rooting for these amazing creatures. So what are the specific threats and what's being done to help protect them?
Yeah, that's what we are going to talk about next.
This is where things get really interesting.
It is.
Okay, so we're back, ready to dig deeper into the threats that Harpy Eagles face and like what people are doing to help protect them. You mentioned they're classified as near threatened. What does that actually mean? And what are the biggest challenges they're up against?
So near threatened basically means they're not endangered yet, but they're getting really close. The main problem is habitat loss. Rainforests are being cleared so fast. For agriculture and mining and, urban sprawl, these eagles are losing their homes and their hunting grounds. It's like if you lost your house and your grocery store all at once.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. And we were just talking about how much space they need. It's not like they can just, squeeze into a smaller territory. Plus, there's the issue of hunting, right?
Yeah, you're right. Hunting is sadly still a problem, even though it's illegal in a lot of places. Sometimes farmers think they are a threat to their livestock, and sometimes people hunt them for their feathers, or even for the pet trade. It's so sad to think about these amazing birds being killed out of fear or for money. But you said there's hope. What are people doing to try and turn things around?
There are a lot of people and organizations working really hard to protect them. Groups like the Harpy Eagle Conservation Program, they're focusing on research and habitat conservation and community outreach. They're not just studying the eagles, they're working with local communities to figure out ways to coexist.
So it's not just about setting aside protected areas. It's about finding solutions that work for people and eagles.
Yeah, exactly. It's about understanding the needs of those local communities and finding ways to empower them to kind of become stewards of the rainforest. Like, for example, promoting sustainable farming. That can help reduce deforestation and protect the eagle's habitat while still allowing people to make a living. That makes a lot of sense. It's all about finding that balance between human needs and protecting nature. It's inspiring to see those efforts happening. But I keep thinking about those hunting skills we talked about. How do they actually hunt? In such a dense and complex environment, do they just swoop down and grab whatever they see?
It's way more complex than that. They are masters of stealth. The article talks about how they use patience and camouflage and really fast reflexes to catch their food.
Okay, so paint me a picture. I'm in the rainforest looking up at the canopy. What does a harpy eagle on the hunt look like?
Okay, imagine you're standing there, sunlight coming through the leaves. High in the canopy on a branch is the harpy eagle, almost invisible. Its feathers blend in perfectly, and it's completely still.
So it's not just about power, it's about patience too.
Absolutely. They're experts at waiting for the right moment. They have incredibly sharp vision, so they scan the forest floor and branches, looking for any movement. They can wait for hours until a sloth or a monkey walks by.
And then what? It just dives down.
It's more like a controlled explosion of power. When the time is right, it launches itself from its perch, and its wings propel it forward super fast. But it's not just speed, it's also about precision.
So how does it avoid crashing into stuff in such a dense environment?
Well, that's where it gets really amazing. They use their wings and tail to maneuver through the branches. It's incredible how agile they are.
So they're navigating a three-dimensional maze. But how do they actually catch their prey?
Well, that's where those giant talons come in. As they close in on their target, they extend their legs and spread those talons wide and grab the prey.
Wow, 5 inches. We talked about the size before.
Yeah.
But I'm just realizing how strong they must be.
Yeah. Their talons can exert hundreds of pounds of pressure. It kills their prey instantly. But they're not just weapons, they're also tools. The article talks about how they use them like grappling hooks to grab onto branches. It helps them move around and perch on things.
So they're like feathered ninjas, combining strength and speed and agility. It's mind-blowing. But it's crazy to think that all this is for a bird that only has a couple of chicks every few years.
Right, and that's why protecting them is so important. All this evolution and adaptation is at risk because of us. If we lose them, we lose a vital part of the rainforest.
It's like you said before, they're not just cool birds. They're essential for keeping the whole rainforest in balance.
Exactly. They help to regulate the populations of other animals, which in turn impacts the plants and everything else.
Like a delicate web. And the harpy eagle is a thread holding it all together.
Yeah. A perfect analogy. And if that thread breaks, the whole thing could unravel.
So what can we do to make sure that doesn't happen? We've talked about the threats and conservation, but what can we do as individuals?
That's a great question, and that's what we'll talk about next.
All right, so we are back and ready to wrap up this deep dive. Into the world of the Harpy Eagle. I
Mm.
feel like we have learned so much
Mhm.
about these incredible birds, their power, their grace, and how important they are for the whole rainforest. But we were talking about what we can do to protect them. It feels kind of overwhelming,
Mm.
when you think about these huge problems, like deforestation and habitat loss. So, where do we even start?
Yeah, I know what you mean. Those problems can seem huge, but it's important to remember that everything we do helps, like no matter how small. One of the best things we can do is support those organizations that are out there doing the work, like the Harpy Eagle Conservation Program.
Right, so donating to these groups. That can help fund research
Ah,
and protect habitat and help with their community programs.
exactly. Even a small donation can make a big difference. But it's not just about money. We can help by spreading the word.
You mean like telling our friends and family
Yeah.
about Harpy Eagles and the
Yep.
stuff they are facing?
Exactly. The more people who know about them and the problems, the more likely we are to actually see change. Share articles, post on social media, talk to your kids about protecting the rainforest. Every conversation helps.
Yeah, I like that. Turning our fascination with these birds into action. But what about our everyday choices? Can that actually make a difference for the rainforest?
Definitely. Remember that deforestation? It's caused by a ton of different things, like demand for timber palm oil and beef. But by being careful about what we buy, we can help reduce the pressure on the rainforests.
So looking for sustainably sourced wood or products that are certified deforestation free, and maybe even eating less meat.
Exactly. Every time you make a sustainable choice, you're telling companies and governments that you care about the environment. And when millions of people do that, it can create real change.
It's like voting with our dollars. We can support the good businesses
Yeah.
and hold the bad ones accountable.
Yep. And don't forget about political action. Contact your elected officials. Support policies that help protect the rainforest. And vote for people who care about the environment. Your voice matters.
So it's really like a multi-pronged approach. Support organizations, raise awareness, make good choices, and be politically active. It sounds like there's a lot we can do, even if it feels small.
Yeah, you got it. Every little bit counts. And when we all come together, it can create a wave of change. Remember, we are all connected to the rainforest, even if we don't live there. The
Yeah.
air, the climate, biodiversity, it's all connected.
So protecting Harpy Eagles in their home, it's not just about saving one species. It's about protecting the whole planet. And our own future.
Exactly. Their fate is connected to ours. By working together, we can make sure these amazing birds are around for a long time.
Well, everyone, that brings us to the end of our journey into the world of the Harpy Eagle. We learned about their strength, their beauty, their importance in the rainforest, and the challenges they are up against. But I think the most important thing is that we talked about what we can actually do to help. So let's keep learning, keep sharing, and keep taking action. Remember, even small actions can make a big difference. Thanks for joining us, and until next time, stay curious.